All right, chat, buckle in. Exclusive developer interview reveals everything you want to know. SoD, Phase 4, and beyond.
Today, we have a very special video.
Hello.
This is a special episode of Tavern Talk. I'm joined here today by two of the WoW Classic dev members. We have Josh Greenfield and Tim Jones. How are you guys doing today?
Doing excellent. Happy to be here.
The guy on the top right
Great.
here butts up.
Cool. Well, I'm going to jump right into it because we don't have much time, but I have a ton of community questions that I've acquired, some from myself, my guild, and then obviously my community on YouTube. So if you guys don't mind, can I jump right in?
Go for it.
Go for it.
Awesome. So the first question I want to ask, a lot of people are talking about this, and it's constantly brought up in the comments on my videos and things like that. So are you guys, contemplating or thinking about putting a system in place for acquiring previous phase runes, maybe using a currency or even gold or something to purchase these runes to make it a little bit easier for players maybe just jumping in now for the first time or leveling up alts to acquire some of the more
I like the currency thing.
That, you need other people around to get.
Yeah, this is something I think we talk about quite a bit. Being honest, like we didn't end up really having enough time in this phase to do everything we wanted to do there, but we really do want to look at some of the things some of the shared runes like the Dark Riders and things like that. It's like once you've kind of done that once, there's not a ton of value in continuing to do that over and over on multiple characters. So things like that, I think we'd really like to, and I think we've said in the past that for future phases, that's something we'd like to look into doing. So I think the short answer is yes, we'll probably do something. But in terms of I don't know if every rune will be on a vendor purchasable. Some of the class specific ones have very unique little story events and very unique little things.
Bro, that's what I said too, Bean.
Sand off all the friction of that. That is an experience.
I soloed all my rune without help while leveling. Right, I think most of us did too, but people that are joining late, they're saying that it takes too much time getting all the runes. It's taking a lot more time than leveling. And I can see the frustration of that in the players. I wouldn't mind if they added something for currency. If they don't, oh well, we tried. It doesn't bother the people that have it, it's just other people that are starting now, right?
That we don't want to deprive anyone of, I guess, but definitely some of those shared ones in particular, it makes a lot of sense.
Like you said, not all of them, but maybe a few.
The Emerald Warden's reputation, we made those runes just require neutral. You can just walk
right
and buy them, and so we definitely like to continue to do stuff like that.
Okay.
And definitely runes that integrate well with the natural level up experience. But anything that, most of our players are at max level content. That's sort of where we're naturally pushing people. So anything that has a hard requirement of needing multiple people, like the Chaos Bolt rune, needing to have multiple fire effects from multiple players, that's frustrating. We know that. We want to make that easier. Things that force you to go into lower level dungeons. We recognize we have data that says, there's not that many people running these lower level dungeons right now, so it's going to be frustrating for people. So those are definitely areas where we want to improve the experience for sure.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I'm telling you, I get tons of comments. Everyone's asking that. So
yes, more than what we think.
And the next question is, are you guys thinking of adding more runes in later phases, or is kind of what we have now the end, right? We have a next slot open, maybe our weapons, maybe some more utility style runes. Anything on that?
I think the current UI is looking pretty full.
Yeah, I don't know. Guys, how do you feel? Do you want more runes? I feel like in a way people want more runes, but at the same time we already have a lot of buttons. I don't know. Maybe not add in the neck and the weapon rune slot, but maybe add like a couple sprinkle, maybe one in pants or chest, something that could be visited. I'm not sure.
In terms of
this is a hard question
of the number of choices. I think the thing that's really interesting and cool about the rune system is that sort of on the fly, as needed, it's oh, we need an off tank for this, so I'm just gonna slot in a couple of runes and I can kind of effectively do that. But I've noticed that as we
there's definitely cosmetic ones,
the number of runes, it's oh, I forgot Hammer of the Righteous, whoops, my AoE threat kind of sucks now, it's the more we layer on that, I think the more cumbersome and that could get. So I don't know, I think it might even be able to be argued that maybe we have a few too many now. So I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna want to add too many more slots.
That's hard.
But I don't know. You never say never. That's kind of what.
Okay, I like that answer.
Attitude. If
I like
there's
that.
a need, or if we find a cool niche for it, maybe we will.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Next question is, so the new content, right, that we've seen in Season of Discovery uses pre-existing areas, right, like Demonfall Canyon, the world bosses, BRD, Nomer, Sunken Temple. Can we expect that to continue, or might we see the team making some new areas in the future? What about that?
Well, we've definitely had some limitations. I don't know if you like. There's a trend. Why are we making content in reusable areas? Because we're a small team. We're growing. We're proving our legitimacy as a product, and the Classics team ability to, produce our own creative, unique endeavor. And one thing some people might not realize is how, hard it is to get art, brand new art, how far ahead of time you need to communicate with the art team in order to get a brand new dungeon. I know a lot of people throw out the idea of like, how would it be super easy to throw together a new zone, a new dungeon, like a brand new raid?
Well, I don't know. He's cooking.
It's actually incredibly hard and time consuming. And so we want to, like, it'd be amazing if I could snap my fingers and give you a brand new dungeon that you've never seen before. I would, and I think all of us want that.
Demonfall Canyon was amazing. I like the bosses. That dungeon made me have high expectation in MC. I think that dungeon had more efforts than MC. Like the bosses, they put like that little ray area and they shoot out and then like spin around, get out. I liked that concept. It had more mechanics than MC, I feel like. MC just felt like Season of Mastery of Fire Resist, right? Also, my friends and I talked a lot about this. I think they're doing the best they can. I know they still get shit on for anything they do, but we gotta give credit. They've been working hard. I know like most of the people want more people want less. The community split on what idea they want. So for all the shit they get, they're not doing bad.
So what's the middle ground? We're trying to utilize underused dungeons, underappreciated spaces, and try to reinvigorate them in different ways. Have actually gotten some new art. I know it some people might make fun of the new boss in Molten Core. He might be a little simplistic, but it is new, right? And we don't have them yet, but we will have new loading screens for Demonfall Canyon.
New loading screen?
The Azure Ghost and Kazakh raids next patch. We didn't get them as soon as we wanted to, but
they still want it. Dude, you don't need to. I feel like you guys don't need to. I don't think we care.
And so that relationship with our art
I thought he was gonna say
growing, and I think that there's going to be a lot more exciting things.
Tim Jones, my king. I don't think we care about. I mean, loading screen is very cool. It's like a +1, but I don't think it's needed. Is it too late to ask for the cancel? I thought he was gonna say, "Oh, we're doing a new place for over here, which will put a new dungeon, and then that will have new." I thought that's what he was gonna say. I don't think people mind the old ones. If they do add it in, we'll go and check it out though.
In the future, nothing to announce at this point, but yeah, it's definitely something we're interested in. We want to create new spaces, but in the meantime, we're being as scrappy and as creative as we can to breathe life into existing spaces that are underutilized.
Awesome. Yeah, and you guys are doing a great job too. So
to expand on that just a tiny little bit too, like, one of the benefits of sort of being kind of small and agile is that we can sort of respond to like what we think that the game needs in the moment. And there are some aspects of that are not really super compatible with like the sort of pipeline way that game development works, and that you having to plan really far in advance. Demonfall Canyon was something that came together pretty quickly for us, and that was really cool, because it kind of started out as like a like one designer had one priest discovery that they wanted to take there, and they're like, hey, I'm going to make an instance area of this and just to have high level monsters. And then we're just like, why don't we just make it a dungeon, you know? And that kind of organics, like what Tim said, scrappy approach is not something you can really do whenever you have this like really regimented, like we planned, like, or
okay, it's like happy
planned,
accidents in painting.
Got that pipeline populated a year in advance, you know what I mean? And that's one of the benefits of how our team works, is that we can really react quickly and change our plans quickly, and that's not something we want to lose if possible.
Definitely, yeah, makes sense. So this next question I actually get asked quite a lot on all of my videos, and if you guys could maybe shed some light on this, that would be awesome. Would you be able to inform us of maybe some sort of timeline for the release of future raid tiers in Season of Discovery? You know, should we be expecting a new raid every 6 weeks, 8 weeks? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of I think that there was a blue post or some sort of communication, I'm not exactly sure, that got put out that I think put in the bug in people's ear that we were going to be shotgunning raids out every like 4 weeks or something. Yeah, that's not really the case. Okay, I don't think the raid tiers aren't going to last as long as they did in 2019 Classic, where they're like 4, 5, 6 months, but they're going to have a little bit of a time to breathe. Like, we put a lot of effort into making new items for these raids. We put a lot of effort into the new difficulty. We want to let it have some time to breathe. You know, we want you to
let it marinate.
The gear you want and enjoy it for a little bit before the next thing comes. So, you know, I wouldn't expect them to be many months long, but they won't be like 4 weeks long. Like they're gonna have a little bit more time.
What's the sweet spot, chat? Like 2 months, 3 months? What's the sweet spot? Month and a half, 2 weeks, 2 months, 1 month? I think definitely for the people that play a lot, you would want 1 month, and next maybe 1.5 month, 1.2 month. I'm speaking for Sunken Temple, because Sunken Temple, they did too long and people didn't like that, right? I don't mind it being long, but not too long. 8 weeks max. Okay, I think I like that answer. Like 2 month, somewhere around 2 month-ish. Sure.
Here.
Okay, awesome. And you know, for Molten Core, you guys gave us variable difficulty levels, right? Which is awesome. And should we expect to see that same variable difficulty option in the future raids coming, like Blackwing Layers, Olgarub, AQ, Nax, and so on? And if so, will it be the same type of changes, like needing more of a certain type of resistance, or will there be some more mechanical changes in different variations?
Mechanical changes, please.
I don't think we're married to one idea.
Oh, that's a good answer. Oh, this guy's speaking so well.
Thursday, so we are just getting into work right now and eagerly looking, like we want to look at the data. We want to see like what the participation is, what the, you know, how many people are doing Heat 3, how many people are doing Heat 1 and 2, how many people have, you know, killed a boss on one difficulty and then moved up to the next difficulty. Are people enjoying the sense of progression that there is, where, you know, no fire resistance is required in the lower difficulties, but once you get a couple pieces of tier 1, how easy is that? And some of that information we might not have until week 2 or week 3, but we're definitely looking at what people's feedback is and if they like it or not, and if resistance is you know, an interesting mechanic to sort of form difficulties of a raid around. So no,
I think having a standard resistance is fine. It's fine. But saying we're gonna make a harder content for the people that enjoy harder content, and then to slap on 226 fire resist, I don't like that. That's not hard. It's just gear check. I think a lot of people went into MC Heat 3 thinking like, oh, it's going to be more harder mechanical. Good players will be able to outplay and beat this boss. I think that's what we want. Like 1 and 2, you could leave as original. 3, it should have a little bit different spice in it. I almost feel like Sunken Temple was harder than MC. MC is just fire resist check, right?
I wouldn't say that it's etched.
So if they do BWL, just shadow resist check, I'm gonna be very sad. Very sad.
That, you know, Blackwing Lair is going to be the Shadow difficulty raid, or Naxxramas is going to be the Frost difficulty raid, or something like that. We're not aiming for that.
Okay,
I think we want each raid to stand on its own and be interesting. And Season of Discovery is
Tim,
also,
you're such a good speaker.
It's experimental. It continues to be experimental. We're trying new things with the hope of learning, long-term lessons for more a permanent space.
Aggrend's reading chat right now. You guys need to be nicer. He's mad. Type some smiley faces in the chat. He's gonna smile soon.
And so, if people have crazy ideas that they want us to explore, please share those. If people really love the sort of the modular difficulty system in Molten Core, yell from the mountains. This is Butts Up and Bean when they're older. We'll do our best to, create different experiences or provide the same ones that really resonate well with our players.
I think too, like to sort of expand on that a little bit more too, like when we were looking at putting together Molten Core, one of the things we do this a lot with Season of Discovery and just really anything we do is not necessarily trying to replicate all of the content identically, but trying to emulate some of what it felt like. I think a lot of what makes Classic special is the feeling that it evokes and the feeling you felt when you first did it. And one of those things was like that whole, I have to work together as a group with my guild to get fire resistance for the tanks or get fire resistance, while fire resistance, resistance fights, maybe not necessarily the most interesting mechanic in we wanted to evoke some of that preparation. And that's why it made sense for Molten Core. May not make sense as much going forward, but I don't know, like Tim said, we'd like to hear more of what people think.
Okay, awesome. And then I'm actually going to scroll down my list because I have another question that kind of goes along with raiding in Season of Discovery. So for more casual raid groups, right? A lot of the times, players can struggle and they don't really have an opportunity to learn because, we're on a weekly lockout, right? So let's say they join a pug or they go with their guild, they down 2 bosses. Now they're locked for the next 6 days or whatever. They don't really get a lot of time to practice those mechanics and do stuff like that. So I had this random idea and I wanted to ask if the technology even existed for this. Where basically there can be a lockout system that is, you are like locked to bosses instead of the entire raid, right? So that person that goes into Molten Core downs 2 bosses and then they call it quits for the night. They can join another raid that's starting at the beginning, right? Down those same bosses again, but they're just maybe not eligible for loot from those bosses because they're already locked to that. Is that something that's like possible? I just feel like it would make raiding a lot more accessible to people who maybe can't really get into it or struggle to find, good groups that can clear. I don't even know if that technology exists. I'm just curious for myself.
I think it's definitely possible. I believe that loot system and lock system has existed in one way, shape, or form in other versions of World of Warcraft. It's not as easy as us flipping a switch and magically all bosses are individual locks instead of the raid. There are certain things specifically about Classic that are the way that they are. And getting a new system like that to work alongside Era, because as everyone knows, hardcore, Era and SoD exist in the same,
Would you guys be mad at that, what they're talking about? I think they could do it because they have it in retail WoW. I have my own raid team that I lead, so I don't really experience this anymore. But definitely for people that pug and they only kill 2 boss and flip it, like the situation gets shitty and people have to leave or whatnot, it definitely sucks for those guys. So it might be a good addition for the people that have a hard time with pugs. I don't know if people are going to be mad about it. I wouldn't be mad about it. Sounds bad. The community is fractured for changes like this. They'll probably do it in Classic Plus, which will be in its own client for sure. They're not going to do a new client, are they? Classic Andes would lose their shit. I'm trying to think about it in a bad way. I guess people can leave and say I could just find another group and do it with them. Or is it more Classic, like to be like, come on guys, you could fill this back up and kill it. and then regroup and go? What's the best? I don't think there's too many negative side of letting them continue the raids. Just join a guild, find a guild. I know, but some people that are even in the guild, I think some of them can't finish. And I know that might sound crazy to us, but there's a lot of people who can't clear still. Especially Sunken Temple, when that was happening, a lot of guilds, they were stuck on Aranicus or couldn't get past it. Only reason I'm not playing is because of bad timing and no raid groups. So if I have a boss lockout, I would be playing. Okay. Interesting to hear your takes.
So yeah, I think we wanted to try to create a system in Molten Core that was as forgiving as possible, with sort of what you're describing in mind, where people who decide to go into heat level 2 and find themselves up against a wall, they can simply, they don't have to, they're not locked to, you know, heat level 2. They can swap difficulty down to heat level 1. And we've structured the rewards, and they could maybe Baron Geddon is the wall for them, but maybe Shazra is easy on heat level 2, so they can actually just ratchet it back up to heat level 2.
That's exactly
on
what we
boss
do.
They want to. So hopefully we've provided some measure of forgiveness and flexibility in the system, even though you are locked to the raid itself. As far as what we do in the future, if that is a system that is more forgiving, that would resonate well with our players, then we'll definitely explore that possibility.
One thing to consider too, and I'm not necessarily saying this because like this is my position or the team's position, this is just a thought experiment and the kind of thing that we think about when we talk about stuff like this, is, you know, one of the things about original WoW is that there is some sort of like, we talk about friction a lot, right? One of the areas of friction is that, you know, it might be kind of difficult to put a group together, and so as a result, you may be invested in that group's success. You know, I think in other games or in maybe even later versions of WoW, sometimes, you know, if the going gets tough, maybe somebody just cuts and runs because they're like, well, I can just go and find another group. And so that's something that we really would want to think about before that. And like, are we okay with that? We're very cognizant of like, you know, does the erosion of the experience sometimes just cosplay as quality of life or accessibility? And we need to be careful about not just like going headlong into that erosion if you know, without care and thought.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you. Another question. So last phase, towards the end of phase 3.
Aggrend makes a good point. Yeah, it's like what I said. Do you want people to be like, hey, we can pull this together, let's bring the band back, and then like fill in the holes at the puck and then go through? Or is it gonna be where somebody just leaves the group and looks for a new group, right? It has pros and cons, but I feel like it has more pros for sure.
To this question for me, would you ever consider, if it was necessary, adding server clusters or merges to kind of help with balance or, you know, server populations in the event that we see like a significant player drop off, right, at certain points? You know, that's pretty much how WoW's always been. There's like a month where it's really booming, and then for a few weeks it dies down, then it comes back. You know, during those times, on my server, you know, logging in to create a new character, there were some times where it felt completely dead, right? And for a lot of people, that is kind of like an immediate turn off, really. But even though you know it's going to pick back up, right, when the next phase launches, you know, is that something that you guys would consider in the future, or no?
This is a tricky issue, unfortunately, and this is admittedly, I'm just being transparent. It is not easy for World of Warcraft to just merge servers.
Yeah,
it's just like the way that the databases are structured. It's really like you have to completely copy one database to another, and that's like a months of planning long process. And for something like a seasonal server, that's tough. That's really tough. That's something, that said, that there are teams that are actively engaged on the World of Warcraft team writ large, not just Classic, on trying to make it easier to do that if we need to do that, and also just revamping kind of how the kind of server architecture works in general. Like Modern has introduced this warbands feature, and that's sort of the first step into making a little bit more I don't know what the right term is, but that's the first step in trying to revamp how kind of Modern handles their server architecture and making that a little bit more flexible. And there may be a world at some point when we see the benefits of that in Classic as well. And that's definitely something we talk about and we really want to make better. I personally have had many conversations with our server team about wanting to shift populations around and how accessible and easy that is to do, and wanting to make improvements there. And that's something that is really top of mind for us. The short answer is not right now, but the longer answer is it's something we really want to invest in the coming years for sure.
Awesome.
And just an addendum to that, like
at
the end of the day, we want people to be able to play on healthy servers. We want people to be able to be on a server where it feels alive and there's a lot of people. And like from the start of Season of Discovery, and just a lot of improvements have been made to the number of players that we can get on single servers. So it is something we constantly think about. It's both a short-term and a long-term goal to make sure that our servers
they say that, but they
and,
still make you pay to switch server. Wasn't the SoD server transfers all free? Did you guys have to pay for it? I never looked at it, but there's no WoW tokens in SoD. GDKP is banned. I think they're trying their best to not have like money stuff in SoD, right? They're free. Okay.
Communities are thriving.
Yeah, at least in SoD,
Awesome.
they've been treating it kind of well.
So with Phase 4, you've given us a bind on account Onyxia attunement, which is absolutely awesome. I think it's one of the best additions. That's great because that's a very lengthy attunement. So would you consider adding something like this for other lengthy processes? For example, like the 0.5 quest line?
Never say never. I think, being honest, like the Onyxia thing was literally mostly related to how much of a bottleneck that can be on the Alliance side in the Stormwind portion. If you've ever done that, that event that's a great event. It's an awesome piece of art.
It is,
but it's also one of the oldest events of that type. Like that was like the rookie attempt for a lot of the team to do that sort of large scale RP event, and I wouldn't call it buggy, but it's definitely a bottleneck, and it's kind of a brittle event. And we wanted to. It's like, okay, with how large, what Tim was just saying about how many people we can hold on these servers, like tens of thousands of people trying to kind of do that all at once. Like it made sense. Like, okay, you know what? If you've done this once, let's just let you go ahead and send this to alts. But we don't. Again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Like, we don't want to erode all sort of like friction in the name of quality of life or whatever. Like those tier 0.5 quest lines are very involved, but at the same point, that's a lot of great content for people. It gets people in.
I feel like 0.5 you could leave it as open. Would you guys be mad if they made, I don't know if you guys remember the old heirloom system where it was like account bind. Would you guys be mad if they made the cloak, the 20 fire res, like you could mail it to your alt? Is that too much? Like, do you want to do another Hydraxian rep, right?
Dungeons.
I would be happy about that. I would be happy. Like, I wouldn't mind making an alt then, so I could just feed my alt the fire resist. Same thing with like if I'm exalted with Argent Dawn and I purchase the shoulder enchant, I can send it to my alt because I don't want to get exalted on all my characters to get 15 shoulder enchant.
Grouping together, and it's like we'd have to be really careful and really thoughtful before we sort of said, okay, well, you've done it once. Like, do we want to accelerate maybe the dungeon running sort of scene to sort of fall off? Like, is that something we want to do? And so it would never say never, but we have to put some careful thought into it.
Yeah.
There's also other improvements that we can make along the line where it's like, should this item be group drop instead of just
I like
solo?
that big diggy.
Should the spawning on Alkaz Island be a bit better than it was for Blood Kelp? Should people have a slightly easier time getting to friendly with Cenarion, so that you know, the grind for rep and Silithus isn't as tedious. So that there's a lot of little places that could actually provide a great improvement without us just shortcutting people to the end.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So this one is for you know, the PvP enjoyers from my community. So one thing that a lot of people think that Season of Discovery might be lacking and could benefit from is some form of endgame PvP, right, for the PvP enjoyers out there. And you know, people have talked about this in the past. I think Zar, you had like an awesome idea.
I like how they all start like looking down when they talk about PvP.
Yeah, about
like, oh,
maybe having like an island, right, where all the PvPers
not that kid I forgot
out,
about.
Right? Like you could hit like a, you know, whack a post and it resets your cooldowns, or maybe like an NPC that you can wager bets on duels or stuff like that. Is that something you guys would be open to adding to Season of Discovery ever?
Never said it.
Yeah, I would love to.
He's like, oh shit. Do you want to answer first, Tim? Oh, okay, you answer. Okay, shit. Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're in agreement. Yeah, I think the PvP community has been a bit underserved when compared to what other communities have got in terms of like 5-man content.
I will say, chat, outside of PvP and the disappointed MC, I've been having a blast playing with my guild, playing with friends, helping them get their fire resist. MC was just a tiny bit disappointed because I wanted to compare it to Demonfall Canyon, was expecting new stuff. It's the same thing, Season of Mastery. PvP, on the other hand, I think they need to visit the classes that do 1,600 off the rip. Like, you got to reduce that down, like shave it down like 30% maybe. I think the classes that just blast you, you're running to them and you lose half your HP and you're dead. It's like, dude, come on, that's not fun. That's not PvP. Right?
And raid content, and
I think just they can do this, right? They do it in retail where they nerf it only in PvP, or is that too complicated? I feel like it would work then. For PV, just leave it as, and then put the brackets for PvP. We'll be nerfing trap that hits for 1,600 on trigger to maybe like 1,000. That's still strong, I would say, right?
We recognize that. We're sorry. We love our PvP community and we want to get better at that.
Tim, you're so good at speaking. How can I be mad at you? He's like, oh, PvP guys, I'm sorry. We're doing a bit. I can't be mad at that. Okay, sure.
You know, whether that's new areas for
the Aggrend right now, he's like, fuck, I did a fucking good job bringing Tim. This guy's so good at talking.
To duel in or systems that reward sort of that sort of PvP content, we want to support that. It's just it's finding the time.
Finding the faster, Tim. Come on,
the needs
find the
of
Tim.
Everything else.
Tim, you want me to help you? I could give you like clips of the classes that do 1,600 right off the rip. I got a few today. You know what I mean?
But yeah, no, that's really cool.
Like a place for PvPers to just kind of hang out, you know, and maybe I could start like skirmish matches, stuff like that. I thought it was a really good idea, so I wanted to bring it up.
I wouldn't mind the place where we could duel and our cooldown resets if we duel there. Once you leave the area, all your cooldowns go on cooldown though, so that people can't abuse it and summon people out and like try to get it, right? So you enter, every time you put the flag down, your cooldown resets. Kind of like a private server, right? Where we all dueled, crazy fun time. Because not dueling with cooldowns constantly is boring. Private server Andes can do it. They could 100% do it. Make a new zone where talents or specs cooldowns reset, right? That would be great. I'd rather have RBG and Arena here. I'm afraid if they bring in RBGs in Arena, it's gonna be the same thing as retail. WoW, you could do that already in retail. I mean, if people really want it, I want to say they also need to put in a vote system like RuneScape and ask players what they want. Let them vote. If community votes something shit, they can blame the community and say, you guys voted for this, not our fault, right? And they'll get shifted less blame. I don't know why they don't do that. Do community polls. I think people would really like that.
But I have 2 questions left. I know we're kind of running out of time that I want to make sure that I get across because they were the most repeated questions when I asked if people had any questions for you guys, what they were. So the first one being, I hear this question in every one of my video comments, all of my Discord.
Okay.
How attached should we get to our characters since this is a seasonal server? Basically, how long should players expect to be able to enjoy being level 60 in Season of Discovery? Is there like a definitive end date? What does that look like?
Are you guys connected, chat? I think I'm connected, but we kind of knew coming in from the start that it's going to be Season of Discovery, kind of like Season of Master era. I kind of expected to lose the character at the end. I'm definitely attached, but I'm expecting it to die off later, which is sad. If my character is deleted tomorrow, I'd be happier. Jesus Christ. Leave it up for 2025, no later. I like my druid. I like it too. We'll see what they answer. I just want to know if you guys are feeling attached or not. Majority of the SoD is gamer dash trying to make game for the first time. Pull would be bad. I don't know. I don't think so. Would it? I think it'll make us more happier knowing that we got this because we voted on it. And obviously it has to be like a great majority for that to pass through, like 70% or more voting on it, yes or no. I'm attached to your paladin now. Thanks, man.
We're not going to suddenly cut the legs out from under you. Like, if you want to go for that ATS, you can feel confident. You'll have the time to put together hopefully multiple ATSs in your guild before this thing starts to wind down. We don't want to shuffle you off to kind of get the retirement home too quickly, as it were. Like, but
Yo, King,
it's one of those things. We kept even Season of Mastery up for quite a while. We don't think we really have any plans to like have a hard stop plan for Season of Discovery. In terms of where you'll end up, that's a tricky question because obviously by the time you're done with Season of Discovery, you're going to have a kind of ridiculous amount of very bespoke gear and new things that you can't really take to Era.
Yeah.
So we're still trying to kind of figure out where you will end up, but we have no real plans to cut the server off at a specific point. So I think you could feel confident that you'll be able to kind of keep going for a good long while.
Okay. Awesome. They don't plan on hard stopping, so I guess it's gonna be like Era where they leave a SoD alive and people can just play it throughout. That's interesting. That's definitely interesting.
Thank you. A lot of people will be happy to hear about that. I think it's that, everyone looking at it as a seasonal server, we started, and I think in last, November.
Exile, thank you so much.
Maybe thinking like it was going to be on like a 12-month cycle, but it doesn't sound like that's what it is.
I don't know about you, but I'm pretty attached to my characters. I got
Me too.
Two in particular that I really, really like to play. Yeah. So I don't know.
Same.
Not in a hurry to see them go away,
Yeah, me either. Okay, cool. So then this next question, and you guys have gotten this a million times, but question everyone is always asking me and everyone wants to know the answer to is, and I'm sure you can't really answer this, but everyone looks at the massive success of games like old school RuneScape, that have become super popular by implementing a permanent, non-seasonal, classic version of the game with consistent updates that are, basically polled and voted on by the community on a monthly, bi-monthly basis.
This is a good question.
Basically, are there any plans to maybe do something like this with Classic going forward? Maybe called Classic Plus or, something like that.
Oh, you bad boy.
We're definitely not going to announce anything.
Hey, what happened? What happened just now?
Something like that.
From Alex Lynn to everyone, 5 more minutes. Oh, okay. The Alex Lynn is a cool guy, by the way.
We're definitely not going to announce anything. That's
shout out to Alex.
But like I think the community just needs to reflect on what we're doing as a team and try to think about why we're doing it. Like, why do we have an experimental, like, seasonal server like Season of Discovery? Why are we trying out vastly different types of raid designs and difficulties? Why are we creating brand new tier sets and trying to make classes that were vastly underrepresented more represented and enjoyable? I think we may stretch too far in terms of how we push the limits of what is acceptable within classic.
So this is us right now when they're talking. Perhaps I treated you too harsh. At the end of the day, they're doing SoD for the fans to have fun and gosh.
Traditional classic design
Right?
for Season of Discovery, but a lot of that's purposeful. So just, you know, without saying anything, I think
it's fair to criticize them, but people get too emotional. I think so too. I think if it's a very structured criticism, it's fine. It's just when I see people on Twitter and say to them like your game is dead or you suck or this sucks without like any structured criticism, it's not gonna feel good, man. It's like when I do YouTube, or back then when I made a lot of YouTube, I used to read every single comments, and then it would be 90% good comment and then 10% bad. You're gonna remember that 10%. Like it's a slap in the face, and they're probably trying to make everything super fun, add in this and that, and people are just constantly shitting on them. It probably sucks to be a dev, man. There's a reason why Retail WoW doesn't let us know who the PvP dev is anymore. Back then we had a main like face of the PvP, right? They don't anymore though, because they get bullied way too hard.
Maybe infer a lot of stuff from what we've been trying to do and all the different things that we've put forward to players and how we consistently
I'll keep bullying them, not gonna lie. No, chat. If you're my community, have a structure. Like you can complain, but have a structure and make sure it's something worth complaining for. Like PvP complaints, I think those are fine, right? I hate how like a mad face. Listen, when I was young too, I would pop off on devs, but as I got older, I understand a lot better that they can't do everything in their powers. It's like Chris Kaleki, he wanted to make a lot of good changes for PvP scene in Retail WoW, but the fund's not there. All the fun just goes into PvE. PvP had like, I don't remember the exact number, but it was very low of a fund. We had a little talk with them.
Ideas.
Tell that to Bean. Dude, Bean is them.
And what people are comfortable with and what people are uncomfortable with. You know, not everything in Season of Discovery is meant to be, you know, a straight up banger. Like we intend for some things we obviously want everything that we put out to be amazing and received well, but it's okay if it's not. And that's a lesson for us to take forward on whatever we work on in the future. So
yeah. Almost as important as finding what works is finding what doesn't. Because you know, I think if we had gone back to November and said this is Classic Plus, like, you know, I think we would have it would have had a different connotation, different way of thinking about it, and things like that. And so, you know, this is why this is our sort of test bed. This is the fertile ground to be able to kind of grow ideas for the future.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good. I think that's what a lot of people, you know, kind of already know, you know.
Yeah,
so that's
we've all
great to
talked
hear.
about this. SoD is probably a gateway for them to the SoD. If it has success, they'll probably do it and pick up things that were good and bad. I think it's a learning curve for Aggrend for sure, to see like what we really liked and got angry about, what we're really happy about, etc. And they'll do a better job in the next one, which is pretty damn hype to think about. But maybe they should have more people in their team, because at the start of the interview, people... What the fuck is that? Oh, you guys can't see it. At the start, did that completely distracted me? I want to show you guys. I was moving my mouse and then I see what the fuck is that? Isn't that the money guy? The money drip? Fuck, dude, I completely lost what I was going to say now. Yeah, I don't remember, chat. What was I going to say? Yeah, that guy.
And kind of, you know, going off of that question, you kind of answered a little bit there, Tim. But I have a question here that, you know, what to you guys differentiates Season of Discovery, right, from like Cataclysm Classic or Classic Era? Like, how do you go about...
You're going about how PPC your community was? Oh, was that what I was saying? You were saying they need more... Oh, yeah. At the start of the video, they were saying they don't have a lot of people in their team, and it almost sounds like they have like 5 people working in their team. And I had this convo with chat. Everyone was saying it was under 10. I'm hoping it's like 15 people. Is it really that small? How many you got, Aggrend? Leave in the comment right now, Aggrend.
Deciding what changes will fit in Season of Discovery and which things might be like going too far. Like what does that process look like?
Hey, it's me. Yo, Hammer. This is a fantastic video, by the way.
Question answer. I think a lot of
great questions. Shout out to Hammer.
Very specific sort of.
I'll link the video after it ends too.
Classic, or this is the type of thing from Classic that we want in Season of Discovery, and this is what we don't.
Okay.
And over time, honestly, that's changed quite a bit. Like, looking at like tanking philosophy, I think early on, I personally and a lot of people on the team were pretty dug in on like, well, you know, some tanks will be better at some things than others, and you know, AOE threat might not be something that everybody has, but as you know, obviously as new abilities got introduced, everybody got more damage, everybody got a lot of new toys to play with. It's like actually doesn't make sense. So we just need to change that. And so it's I think that's fluid, I guess, is I don't want to give a cop-out answer, but it's really just like a whatever kind of makes sense at the time as we go. But in general, you know, there are some constants about original WoW that we really feel strongly about, kind of like that social aspect and wanting to really like invest in getting in a group, invest in building a social circle, invest in relationships and stuff like that. That's always something that we're kind of keenly interested in.
That's MMO.
To group up with each other, stuff like that. But I don't know. I could go on and on and on. But it's it's a deep question. There's a lot to that. And I think it sort of changes over time with how the community and the game evolves.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I think we're pretty much out of time, and that's really all I've got for you guys today. So,
all right, those are some great questions.
Seriously, for giving me this time. This was absolutely awesome. You know, talking with you, kind of picking
I like the video chat
on this stuff.
Go like it.
I think you
support
guys are doing
an
amazing job. So, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the video.
Take care,
Mr.
guys.
Hammer Dance. I will say something they didn't really talk about. One thing I want to say is good. The coins. This makes it where we could revisit the dungeon and we still get something out of it. So we can group up with people that need the dungeon and still continue doing dungeons. It's a great system. The coins are a win for sure. Yeah, that was good. And Hammer, yo, thank you again for the video. That was a really good interview. Very good interview. I think the questions and the answers were pretty good. Tim, W, Aggrend, W, Hammer. That was good. Interesting. I would like to see more interviews. I like these. You get a little breath of air where the devs are in the headspace and what their thought process was, and if players should be really mad about it and whatnot. They did apologize for the PvP scene. I think everyone knows PvP is not in the brightest start right now.